everyone. It's Isaiah, and this is another one of the inspiring. Oh, I'm confused. Isaiah's Inspiring Evenings. That's the name of the podcast. And today, in part of the biggest series called Things Women Don't Talk About, I have the honor, the craziest thing is happening to me. I am talking with the incredible Leonie Dawson. So before I go into telling you why I think she's amazing, let me remind you that this series is all about talking about people, about things that women don't talk about, whether they are too serious, too taboo, so sex, bathrooms, or whether they are too mundane, like, oh no, we don't talk about that. This is not serious, right? So, because there's so many things that we pretend that we talk about, but we polish everything. And I'm all in favor of unpolishing, going wild and crazy, and talking about anything that we want to talk about. Mostly women. We need those women's stories on the interwebs, I believe. So I have, as I was saying, and I'm going to read my notes because I'm always too emotional. But tonight I'm even more too emotional. So the conversation, as you know, is usually recorded live, and I very seldom edit. Then I share them on my podcast and anywhere else the guest feels like sharing. So today, as I was saying, I'm a little shocked, to be honest, to receive the one and only, the incredibly inspiring Leonie Dawson. So I'm going to go on and read her bio because if I start talking about her, I'll never end it. So Leonie Dawson is an internationally best-selling author of the 2025 My Brilliant Year workbooks, formerly known as the Go-Getter workbooks, which have been used by over, drumroll, 500,000 people worldwide, amongst which me, for more than 10 years. A multi-passionate entrepreneur, Leonie has generated over 14 million in revenue while only working 10 hours a week. Leonie has been recognized for her business acumen by winning Ausmumpreneur's People's Choice Business Coach, Global Brand and Businesses Making a Difference Awards. Leonie has spent the last 10 years living in some of the most beautiful places around Australia. Yes, she's from the land down under. She currently lives with her 2 daughters and husband in Canberra, and she uses the she, her pronouns. Now, before I shut my mouth and let Leonie talk, I want to tell you a little bit of why am I so shocked. Last year on Solstice Day, a day when I believe it's important to sow seeds, I reached out and I was able to book myself for a podcast episode with Leonie, as in Leonie being my guest in this very, very confidential podcast. I thought if I never ask, the answer is always no. Last week, I got a bot confirmation, and I actually had to write to Leonie's support to check that this was real, or if it was a bug in the website that allowed me to book. I didn't believe it was possible. It is. So yes, I'm honored and so thrilled to talk to Leonie about pretty much anything she wants to talk about. I have been a fan forever, and I have so much gratitude for Leonie being the one big lighthouse of my online adventures. So what are we talking about? Well, I can't tell you. Beforehand, buckle up, here we come. Anything magical, anything feminine, anything that seems rude, secret, fun, mundane, spiritual, or irreverent. Sex, business failures, menstruation, epic successes, reading lists, the times when we were only human, all the stories, the raw, happy, authentic, sad, vulnerable, angry stories, and more. Welcome, Leonie.
Oh, my goodness, what an introduction. Say you're an absolute joy, and I just love you already.
Thank you. Thank you. I've loved you for so long. I remember a time when I actually wrote to you saying, do you think I could translate all your work in French? Because at the time I was only working in French. So
Wow.
so to get us going, I thought what I'd do is I'd go and copy paste a few things from your about page and ask questions around those, if that's all right with you. Now, if you want to go on a tangent at any point, be my guest.
I do love a side quest.
So the first bit that I found really interesting, because this idea of the series of this podcast is to open up the conversation for more women's stories in the world. I believe we need so many more women's voices in the world. We need a growing, infinite library of women's stories to compensate for millennia of men's stories. And so on your website, I read, I believe our stories heal. I offer up my experiences and stories with so much love and service to let you know you are not alone in this world, that you really are good enough. After crying, I copied and pasted that a little bit. And I would love if you could talk a little bit about what you think about stories.
Mm. That's how my whole creative career began over 20 years ago, which is just so magical to think of. My favorite author in the world is the author Sark, Sark.
Mhm.
She wrote Succulent Wild Woman and Transformational Soup and so many incredible, incredible books. And it was in the years, it was in the time of the internet before social media, and she ran a message board, a marvelous message board. And for me, I was 20, maybe yeah, I was about 20 when I joined, I think, and I was so fascinated because it was the first time I'd seen women sharing their stories vulnerably and honestly and really going deep with their lives, and it was delicious and intoxicating, and I thought, "Wow, I wanna be here and I wanna stay here." And I started sharing my stories just of what I was creating and the adventures that I was having and the things that were coming up for me. And it was so beautiful to be heard and acknowledged in that space. And around the same time, I was invited to a women's circle in person as well. And it was fascinating to me, the idea of it, because I was growing up, I was not a girl's girl, I was friends with boys. I found it
Mhm.
simpler and easier to be friends with boys. And so it was only in that early 20s that I started forming like really beautiful friendships with women and being a part of those women's circles where again women were sharing like very depths of their lives. I thought this is what to be a part of for the rest of my life. And so in those two places, both in person and online in this antiquated forum, that was a place where I got to start really sharing my stories, the real stories, not just the polished ones.
Mm.
And it was incredibly healing and so powerful. And then the fact that I'd actually get like seen and held in that space and loved, even for the messiness, was such a potent and healing force for me. And so just carried on with once I found out that blogs were an invention, I started blogging my stories. And I've been blogging since 2004, which is now 21 years ago. Very wild. And my story doesn't feel it, my story feels more complete when I've written about it. It feels more healed. It feels more like I understand it. It's just the tapestry weaves itself
Yeah,
together.
I get
And
that very much.
mm, mm.
It took me years
Last
to
week,
realize that I needed to write the story for it to become to make more sense.
mhm, mm, mm. Last week, a friend of mine passed suddenly, and I've been just thinking and thinking about it, of course, and feeling about it. And last night I was like, right, I know it. I'm going to need to write about
Mm.
this. Even if I don't share it publicly, it doesn't have to be shared publicly. I just need to write about this in order to kind of find some kind of peace with it.
Yeah, yeah. I had the
Mm,
exact same feeling when my father passed away a few years ago. That,
mm,
until it was out of my head, basically. and onto the paper, that it would make more sense then. And it did. But I have, a question in a question, because what we're talking about is writing heals. Write helps us make sense of the stories. But I believe that with you, I'm guessing that it also heals the reader.
Mm.
That for me, reading your stories it has been such a huge permission given to write myself, and also to be okay with my own messiness, with my own shit going on, basically. And that has been tremendously healing for me. And I now get, in turn, this kind of same comments for my stories. People tell me, "Oh, it's so good to read your stories because it makes them feel better about themselves," which I find it is, yeah, I love that. That not only I do it for me, but, if it can help anyone else.
Yeah. I think that's the enchanting thing, like, and I think we just, like, continue just to be lighthouses for each other. That was Sark with her books and how honest she was about the best parts of her and the worst parts of her. Gave me so much bravery and courage to go, "Oh, I can tell more of the truth about me." And through time as well, experiencing so many, um different big things of life. Like 15 years ago, when I had my first daughter, and I was just in the thick of postnatal depression and anxiety, and was really not okay for a while there. And I remember a friend saying to me, "One day you'll write about this."
Mm.
And I said, "No way. No way, Jose. Nobody needs to know about this. This is bad. This is not okay." Um, and she said, "You may not feel it like that you're okay to do that right now, but you will eventually, and it'll be wonderful." And she was right. And about a year later, I was recovered and I was well enough to share the story of it. And it healed something profoundly to write about it. And then the response I got back, even though I was so scared of sharing it, I thought nobody wants to know about how bad this has been for me. And it's also it feels like such a taboo topic. It felt like such a taboo topic to me at the time, to be a new mother and to be experiencing, this enormous amount of love, and at the same time to be not okay, not at okay on any level. So being brave enough to just go, "Oh, this is really what happened to me, and it was messy and awful. Uh, and this is what I learned from it, and this is what I got out of it, and this is how I healed." I thought the biggest healing part of that would just be in me being brave enough to share it, but then it's been the stories that I got back from other people, the stories of women who were still in the thick of it going, "Oh, I thought I was the only one, and I had so much shame about this, and I didn't want to go to the doctor, and I have been suffering for years with this. And finally, I feel like I can do something about it now." That, it made my whole life. It
Yeah, no,
made
that's
it
huge. That's
worthwhile.
huge.
Mm,
That's huge that you get to literally help somebody reading,
mm-mm,
and not in a way that you give them advice or anything. It's just the sharing of the stories. That's why I believe that we need more women's stories, more authentic women's stories in the world, because there are so many women who think they're going through whatever alone, and it's not true.
mm.
Um, Now, the next bit that I was really interested is, you are a crazy creative person. I mean, the amount of things that you have created in your life is just like blowing my mind. And then you say you are a wildly creative introvert. And so I'm really interested because uh, you don't know this about me, but English is my third language. So I'm French and Greek. And so introvert was a word that I didn't know before I met you. So I thought, what does that mean? And how can one be an introvert and make $14 million and be authentic and sharing everything or sharing so much? So do you have any, I don't want to say
easily.
advice, but explanations? What do you
Yeah,
have to say for yourself, Miss Dawson?
I do. The thing I have to say for myself is like it was easy. Like it was I feel like being an introvert doesn't stop me from being able to create a business. I just feel like we have like these very um outdated and incorrect ways that we believe that business has to be done. We
Yeah.
believe that business has to be done with like these networking events. And I've never been to a networking event unless I'm speaking at it, you know? And then I'm on the stage and then I'm off. And like it's so rare that I even speak in person because why would I leave the house when I could just turn the internet on and speak on the internet instead? The internet is the greatest blessing of all for us introvert business owners and introvert creatives. So there's so many possibilities and there's so many ways to share your stories, share the things that you want to create in the world, and you get to keep on following that beautiful adventure while being totally true to you. It's a magnificent thing.
Yeah, it's again about authenticity, right? Not pretending to be someone you're not, obviously.
Mhm.
Um, is there, do you think there is a boundary to that authenticity? Are there things that you're not sharing? Not that I want you to share them, but just,
Mm.
out of curiosity.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the things that I don't really share anymore is I don't share pictures of my kids
Mm.
or husband, and I'm pretty careful about the stories that I share about them online as well. And that that started happening like when my first daughter was born, I was sharing everything. I was sharing everything online and stories and pictures and all the things. And, it was beautiful. It was innocent in lots and lots of ways. And once she was out of toddlerhood and starting to develop into her own person, I started feeling uncomfortable with it because I was like, I don't want to write the story of her life for her
Mm.
in a public way. And at the same time, as well, I went through a really vicious experience of there was a hate forum for bloggers at the time, and one of them was dedicated to me, and it talked about my husband and my children quite a bit in just some really
Venom.
disgusting ways. And I felt awful that this thing that I loved so much created uh, pain for my family. My husband's a very private person, and he didn't like I don't think he necessarily like I was distraught about it, and he was like, "Oh, they don't sound like happy people. I don't give a shit about them." Um, in that wonderfully simple wisdom kind of way of his. But I just felt awful that I brought pain into his life, especially when it's something that he wouldn't choose for himself is to be public. So that's when I began to be more protective over those things. And also, like, I do have a boundary. I said I tend to not really share things when I'm going through the thick of it, when I'm not healed from it yet, because I don't believe in using the internet as therapy. um, I believe in sharing my story once I've gone through that hero's quest myself.
Yeah, that makes sense for me. Both things that you said. Actually, my kids just turned out one day and said, "Okay, now you're done sharing about us, right? This is your witchy, crazy stuff. We don't want to be associated." And they were 10 and 5, so they came to me and
Amazing.
said, "Okay." we're done now. We don't want to be anywhere near you. At
Yeah.
school, they're going to laugh at us. Okay.
Yeah.
So I retreated very nicely, which, you thought about that on your own. Me, I had to be brainwashed by my children.
Well,
But
and it really hammered home. I'm grateful I did it when she was little because, my eldest, when her first day of high school in a brand new school, and she was in a computer class, and they got them to Google their own names, and she'd never Googled her own name before, and she found so many photos of her and her birth story and pictures of me giving birth, like just everything. And she was like, "What is this?" And her teacher was like, "Are you an influencer?" And she's like, "No, but my mother." And she came home and she told me, and I was just like, "Oh, honey,
mm,
oh God, I'm so sorry." And she said, "I know you stopped, Mum, because I couldn't find anything after this date.
mm,
Um, but this is so embarrassing." And I'm like, "I am so sorry. I'm so
mm.
sorry. I'll get all my assistants on it. I will scrub you off the internet." And so, I had two of my assistants work to scrub as much as we could find.
Yeah, that makes sense also because, it's kind of, as a mother, for a while, we believe that our kids' stories are our stories, but they're not.
Mhm.
They're their
Mhm.
stories.
Yes. Yeah. Very much so.
Separation thing doesn't happen when we give birth, does it? It happens somewhere after that.
Yes, it's absolutely true, and I'm just so grateful that she was so understanding about it. She was like, "Mom, please have that taken down." I was like, "Honey, I'm so, so sorry. I'm so sorry." And she said, "Mom, I know it's your job, and I know that it's something that you really love, and, I know that you're always just gonna be the weird mom. Even if you didn't have this job, you'd always just turn up time to be schooled and be weird. Like, that's just who you are. I get that. I just don't wanna be on the internet."
Yeah,
And, I'm so grateful it didn't cause a rift in our relationship. I was just like, "I will rebuild this. I will fix this."
yeah, awesome. And the other thing that you were saying, not sharing from the thick of it. So
Mm.
it's also, for me, when I find myself writing from the thick of it, because I do, um, it's this place where I give myself permission to feel like a victim for 5 minutes. I don't think this has anything to do on the internet, though. I give
Yeah.
myself to go for the, oh, I'm a poor thing, this is happening to me. And then I relax into it and, go through it. But this is not who I want to be on the internet. I,
Mm.
I allow myself to be that in the intimacy of my own bedroom.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Something's just best kept in one's journal.
yeah, absolutely. Which, by the way, you helped me create because you've got these amazing books, workbooks that I've been using for years, and they gave me inspiration for how to write my journal. Before that, I was writing, and now they're colorful and full of stickers and drawings and paint and everything. So, really, really, thank you again.
Oh my gosh, that makes me so happy. So happy.
It's really like, your work has given me permission to be me, which is amazing. Um,
And what a
so
gift to the world that is.
thank
What
you.
a gift to the world that you are, like, you being you. What a freaking gift. I couldn't be more thrilled for you.
Thank you. Now the next bit, which I really want to talk about, is uh, even to be able to begin booking this conversation with you, I had to answer this question. Are you an anti-racist, a Black Lives Matter supporter, and an ally of the LGBTQIA plus community? So, does that make you a political person or
Oh,
not?
yeah. Yeah, it does. It weaves out people quite a bit, because I don't have any interest in,
Mm.
like, what am I gonna turn up on, on some bro podcast, um, where they say just some really reprehensible shit, and I just have to sit there and be like, "I enjoy this because I'm a guest." No, I'm not.
Mm,
I'm not interested in sharing my voice, my spirit, my time with people who don't know how to honor and respect other human lives that are
mm,
different from theirs. And also, like, as a person with autism and ADHD, I need to feel safe in
mm.
in my spaces. I am an invisible, it's an invisible disability
Yeah.
in lots of ways, but I don't I don't need to be around people who don't just
Mm,
share common love and understanding of other humans. And so, yeah, like, especially for American podcasts, that is going to delineate, whether they're a Trump voter or not. And I'm very happy to, like, not be on Hitler supporting podcasts.
mm. I love your answer because it's not about, yes, it's politically correct for me to be an anti-racist. It's about, I don't wanna be around them, basically, which I think
Yeah.
is a very healthy dose of selfishness. Congratulations.
Yeah. Like, I mean, this is a thing, like, I only work 10 hours a week. I only have 1 or 2 interview spots available per week. Do I really wanna spend 10% of my work week on some douchebag with
Yeah, trying
some
to
really
defend the
gross
position.
views?
Mm,
Yeah, not for me. It's not for me. No, thank you. My time is too precious, and this world is too precious, and I also, my people are too precious to me. My fans, my readers, the ones that I love and who love me back, then, like, do I wanna go on a podcast that they're not gonna be safe listening to?
mm.
No. Like, that's horseshit. I'm not involved in that.
I love that because there is, nowadays with the political situation around the world and mostly in the
Mm,
US, where I don't live, right? I live in France.
mm,
um, there is so much. Let's draw lines. Which side are you
mm,
on, etc., etc. As in, how do I show up?
mhm,
What will people think?
mhm,
And I love that this is not about that. This is about what
mm,
do I think? What do you think?
mm,
Where do you want to be?
yeah,
And in the same way, I know because I have been a follower for years that you are a person who gives back a lot to the community in so many various ways. To your, even to us, our lovely affiliates, and to Kiva, and to, I know you gift workbooks around the world. So for me, that makes you also a political person. Um,
mhm,
because that is a political stand to just say, if I can, I will give back.
mm.
And where did that come from? Have you always been this um, generous person, or did you build it up? Or
Yeah, like, I think I'm generous, but, like, didn't have the funds to do anything with, didn't have the power to do much with, like, I remember when the tsunami happened in Southeast Asia, and it was all I could do was to fossick up $100 to send to Red Cross, and I was like, "Woof," that felt like a big investment, and, like, I'm really proud of myself for doing that, and with my business, I've been able to create enough excess abundance that I can redirect it to the places that need it. And it thrills me. It's exciting. I love being able to create win-win-wins in every transaction. So when I think about it, like, when somebody buys from me, it's a win from me. If win for me, it's a win for the person who's buying for me because I'm going to like buying from me because I know that I'm going to completely over deliver and give them a delicious experience. But then I want the win to go on and percolate around the world. And so that's where I can, like, redirect some of those funds into the places that need it. So we've been able to donate over $170,000 in cash to nonprofit organizations around the world. At the moment, the big thing that I support is um, uh, organizations like Australian Wildlife Conservancy. And what they do is they purchase land where there are endangered species living, and they protect that. And I think that's a really important part of the climate crisis puzzle, is to
Mm,
have these pockets of wildlife. I read this incredible book a few years ago called Rewilding by Isabella Tree, and
I
it's
love this
about
book.
a farm in England that they rewild back to in its native state, and the incredible just natural miracles that happen even just in that small amount of
Hmm.
land, and how it actually impacts globally, with what happened there was incredibly inspiring. So here in Australia, I support those organizations, and then we've donated over 250,000 workbooks in digital and in print copies to nonprofit organizations around the world for them to use with their clients. So from people in slums in India to cancer support, people needing cancer support in the UK, to teen mums who are in jail in America, to flood victims in Australia. We've been able to give those workbooks, and we just get so much incredible feedback from people who use them then to set their goals and start thinking about what they want and what they want to create. And the shifts that creates for them is just beautiful. Because we've been doing it for so long now, I get emails from people, 5 years, 10 years later, emailing in and saying, I just wanted you to know how much this changed my life to have received this.
I love that. I love that because we have, or maybe I have, I'm going to own that. I have this idea that, it's kind of difficult for people in the poorer parts of the world to have access to goal, and all the courses and everything that I, as a privileged white person, have access to. And I love that it works for everyone, provided they get the tool, aka your workbooks. It works for everyone. And so, thank you on behalf of the world. Thank you.
This is only just the beginning. I barely started.
This is, yeah, we'll get back to this, or we can go now. It doesn't matter. Because my next question is about money.
Mm.
Because thanks to you, I also met another money person, the amazing Denise Duffield Thomas. And uh, what I love is that you and Denise and other women like that are opening up this crazy for me, or at least it was crazy when I was younger, that not all rich people are evil people. Exactly on the opposite. If someone like you, who is political, who is giving back, who is interested in the well-being of the earth, the animals, the people on it, with the millions that you can make, this is making such a huge difference. This has changed my view on money completely. So, did you know that when you were younger, when you were beginning? Did you dream that, or was it just a
Oh,
surprise along the way?
oh, I was totally like co-opted into the idea that having money was selfish and greedy, um, and made me shallow. Like, it would make me shallow in some
Oh,
way.
shallow.
Like, just these incredible judgments and prejudices. And it's also completely understandable to have them, because we are surrounded by money stories, and we hear so much, um, on a daily basis, both culturally and within our families of origin, about wealth. And it's very rarely spoken about in a positive way.
Mm.
Even now, the phrase like "eat the rich," I'm like, oh, I don't love the energy of that. I am all for taxing the bejesus out of billionaires. I think that's a really phenomenal thing to do. 100% agree with that. But where, like, eat? When do we wanna get into cannibalism? That doesn't feel great. And also, what does rich means very different things. It's like,
Yeah.
I am a multimillionaire. Does that put me in the sphere of a billionaire? No, like, it's worlds apart, worlds apart. Um, so I definitely had all these kind of prejudgments, and all I really wanted to do was just make enough money that I would be able to have a creative career and not have to go to um, to an office job. And I also wanted to be able to stay home with my children when I
Mm,
had them. Wanted to be able to spend as much time with them as possible. So I started creating my creative business and had a rip-roaring time, and along the way, as I started creating more money, I started coming up against the edges of myself of,
mm,
"Oh, what does this mean if I earn over 6 figures? What does this mean if
mm,
I earn more than anybody in my family has ever earned before? What does this make of me?"
mhm,
What am I making s how am I making sense of this? And so I had to go on a healing journey to look at my own ideas about money and what I wanted it to look like for me. And this is the thing, isn't it? If we were going to be a conspiracy theorist, wouldn't it work incredibly well for all of like the straight white men in the world who have personality disorders if really good-hearted people thought, I can't have that much money because it makes me evil. They're like, "Yes,
mm,
please think that, and we'll just
mhm,
carry on just making all the freaking money under the sun and,
mm. Yeah.
having economic power." That
Yeah.
works really well for them.
Oh,
That
that's a
works
very,
really
very
well.
good, it works for them indeed. Yeah.
Yeah, it works for them, and it doesn't work for us. And the truth is that we can be whoever we wanna be when we're rich. We can be a new kind of rich person, and I'm friends with, people like Denise Duffel-Thomas, and we have a big bunch of friends who are, like, women entrepreneurs, especially here in Australia, and we are creating this new kind of rich experience,
Mm,
and who we are is a beautiful thing. At one point a few years ago, we were all just a little bit bored and a little bit itchy. I'm like, "What should we do? You know what we should do? Let's build a school in West Ghana." And so we just, like, kind of fossicked enough money together for us to
love that.
build a six-room school in West Ghana just because we're just a bit bored, we'll just need a bit of a thrill. Let's give
I
us a bit
love
of a
that.
thrill.
I love that. It's like, it opens up so many uh, doors in my head, and I'm guessing in anybody's head who's listening. It's like we really have to redefine what making money means, how we can make money, and your 10 hours a week are still kind of flooring me. I can't manage that for now. Um, how we make money and how we spend money, how we use money for whatever in the world. And I love the sentence on your website. It says, so you obviously, I help gorgeous humans build wildly profitable, high integrity business with heart. It's got like the whole of the sentences there with all of the triggers. The profit, even
Yeah.
the word profitable is like, "Ugh, what do you mean profitable?" Is that why she's having a business? Yes, that is why she's having a business. And I could feel myself going through all the unraveling in my own head. So thank you again for um, creating this reflection, or no, it's not reflection, does not mean that in English. This thought process in me, of examining my beliefs, my stories once again, um, because I believe that they are intertwined with so much stuff, like, of course, parents, family, etc., but also, to my personal opinion, religion, uh, politics, and the place we live in. My father was from Switzerland. The rich people, the rich people from Europe. That's the Swiss people. So again, there is so much stories, um, and so many of these stories are just stories, like lies, basically.
Mm,
And indeed,
mhm.
maybe they are a conspiracy theory, or at least they work like one.
Yeah.
Uh,
They really do work like one. And I like to just look at things clearly in the light of day and say, well, what's true for me and
mm,
what would I like to create of this experience? And for me, having more resources means that I can live even more, kind of in integrity with my values. It means that we can choose more ethical options when it comes to purchasing things. It means that we can invest in the things that are important to us, like,
Mm.
uh, you know, we are a big believer in alternative education, and so we've been able to invest in those areas for our children and for what we want them to experience. And I
Absolutely.
love having those options. I love that we're able to make decisions not based on what we can afford, but on what's truly going to serve
Mm.
us.
Yeah. And give back so much of it, which is
Mm,
like, so
mhm.
that is part of the game for me. At least I was the same. I remember the tsunami as well. And it was difficult at the time, and it's not anymore. So this is cool. um,
Right? Rose, it's
yeah, it is
amazing.
really cool. Yeah, it's really cool to feel that, hey, I'm driving an electric car these days.
Girl,
And not a
go.
Tesla. No.
Isn't this the funny thing that we now all have to
No.
specify that?
Yeah, no,
Like,
no, no. I'm driving a Renault because I'm French and we have Renault cars here.
"Ew."
Now, I would love if you talked to me, and to anyone who's listening, about the what I consider to be the core of your business, of your fortune, and of your success, aka the workbooks. Could you kind of, pitch them for anyone who's not heard of them yet? The 6 billion people. 6,500,000 people who have not bought them yet,
That's right,
and who
exactly.
need to.
I'm still working on it, still working on it. Um,
I remember
you
reading in one of your very, very early blogs, I hope to touch 1,000 women in the world.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh,
I
that's
remember
really
writing that
beautiful.
on my fridge, actually, thinking if she can do it, I can.
Yeah, you can. Yeah,
I
you
did.
can.
I did by now. But,
Yeah, you
you and your
did.
500,000 workbooks are kind of, I wouldn't say shadowing me, but yeah, I'm working on it too.
You got this. You have got this. The world is our oyster.
Yeah.
It's just so full of possibilities. With the workbooks, it was something that I created 15 years ago, and I had already discovered that goals could change my life, and that if I set goals and really dedicated myself to them, I could move mountains. I could
Mm.
shift mountains. I remember, like, one of the first goals I set was I wanted to create $30,000 in the next year from my creative business, and I could not work out how on earth I would do it, but I was so determined. I was like, "I will make it so I will learn everything I need to about business and marketing until I know how to do this thing." And so it happened for me. I hit the $30,000, and the next year I doubled it, and then I doubled it the year after, and it just kept growing after that, and it was just wildly transformative. And so I was pregnant with my first daughter, and already knew goals were just a big, beautiful thing, and I knew that going into new motherhood that I was on for a big journey, a very, like, that I was going to go through a really intense initiation. And I wanted something to hold on to while I went through that intense initiation. And so I decided to create these beautiful well, no, I decided I wanted to create really dream my goals for the year ahead. And I was like, right, I'm gonna have a look around and see what books are out there that I could buy to help me do that. And there was nothing available. And the only thing that were available at that point in time in that specific part of history was very black and white and very, like, masculine and very just like career and money orientated. And I wanted to set goals for every area of my life and my business. So I was like, oh, I'm going to have to make something myself because there's nothing out there. And I wanted to make it rainbows and unicorns and mermaids and fun and colorful and delicious and scrumptious. So over the space of a few days, I hand painted and hand wrote the first edition of the goals workbooks back in and released it in 2010. And I thought, I just did it for myself. And then I was like, oh, this is really cute. If 10 people did it with me, that'd be so fun. It'd be so fun. So I put it up online, and 1,000 people ended up buying it in the next couple of weeks. It just kind of went like wildfire in a way that I wasn't expecting. And then the next year I brought out a new edition, and those people came back and they brought all their friends. And so it just kind of created this enormous groundswell. And so people would just keep telling their friends and keep bringing them back and keep coming back year after year. And we started the donation process as well. And so we're now at 500,000 people worldwide who've used them. But really, I just made them for myself because I wanted to create goals for myself in a really rainbow and fun way. And even if nobody else had ever used it, it would have been just so worth it to have created it for me and for what it's done in my life and for my business. Has been miraculous.
And they are just beautiful, I must say.
Oh, thank you.
Again, permission given to me to create things that are not expected. That you don't have to, or I don't have to create in a way that is commercial or, the traditional way or whatever. This leads me to is the 500,000 workbooks have gone through, have put you through a journey as well. And I know because, as I was saying, I've been a groupie for a long time. So I was a groupie before you created the first academy, and then for the second one. So I'd be really interested if you could, or if you want to, tell me how you chose to downsize. Because at some point, you seemed like you were on a trajectory to the stars as far as the size of your business was. And then you changed your mind.
Yeah.
And I know why, but I'm not sure everybody does. So I'd be interested if you could elaborate a little bit about how this downsizing was for integrity reasons, right?
Mm-hmm. So it was, I was just following the lead of where my business was at with the workbooks and the academy. And it was, growing and growing and growing. And that was just so beautiful to experience that. And we started printing the books in China, and then we had, because my audience is very, very global, we had distribution houses in America and Australia and the UK to try and get it to people as quickly as possible. And so, the books were going through, 3 different ports, 3 different customs, and it was an enormous, enormous undertaking. We would sell, 80,000 packages to go out in the space of a month or 2, which is, absolutely massive. It's a crazy
Crazy.
undertaking. Also incredibly expensive. It was like $500,000 investment each
Yeah.
year in printing and all those kinds of things. Um, and it's such a beautiful thing that people wanted the workbook so much, and that the demand was outstripping what we could create. And so I just kept on hiring more people, and we kept on up-leveling and up-leveling and up-leveling. And we had about 20, I think we were about 25 staff, so staff and contractors together at a certain point, just, to deal with the customer service. And that didn't even include the distribution houses, which we were, contracted to, and all that kind of stuff. And it made for some really wild adventures. Like at some point, a distribution house in America was holding the books hostage and just not sending them out at a critical point, like just before
Oh
Christmas.
my goodness.
And so we ended up hiring some people to go in a truck to go collect the books, and they were literally holding these books hostage. And they're like, "Oh, you have to pay $5,000 to release the books." And then they'd load half the books, and they're like, "No, it's an extra $2,000 now because we've had to bring in the forklift. And then they're like, oh no, we've got 5 boxes left. No, that's going to cost you $1,000 to take them. Oh, and like at some point we thought we'd have to call the police because it genuinely was like, it was a very scammy situation. Like a very high intensity stress situation. And then the
Yeah.
books had to go through like this, it was called Snowmageddon. It was this enormous snowstorm that blanketed America. And meanwhile, we have a truck full of books going across America to Las Vegas to go to the next distribution house. And again, it was like one of my contractors and a friend of his who like commandeered the truck to go take it. And I'm so grateful that they were up for the adventure, but it was wild, like really, really wild. Um, so, that level of stress, and I discovered that like having that amount of staff and that amount of logistics to manage on a daily basis, it meant that I was really in the role of logistics manager
Yeah.
and staff manager. And even though I'd hired people to look after them, at the end of the day, it just keeps coming back to the CEO. And um, and if we kept on that path, it would have just continued. And the crazy thing is that I now was working. At that period of time, I worked harder than I'd ever worked. I was working 25 hours a week, which is a lot to me, okay, for somebody who only does 10 hours a week.
I know.
25 hours a week, but I didn't have time to create anymore.
Oh.
And I was only on the management front. And even when I hired chief operations officers, all that kind of stuff, it's still like there was no way that I could really have a work lifestyle, which meant that I was in quiet and in creativity the majority of the time, which is what I really love. That's what I wanted to do with my life. So it was just crushing me. And so I'd even have to like take parts of my weekend to do the creative work for my business because I didn't have time in my business anymore. And at the very same time, I had young children, and my youngest was 2 at the time, and I
Wow,
was
that's a
working
lot.
more. And my husband and I, when I wasn't working, we were talking about how to put out the next fire in the business. And it was really, really challenging and very stressful. And I also had my heart broken by people in my business that were working for me. And um, I made the mistake of hiring my best friend of a decade to work for me, and she no longer speaks to me. It was just an awful, awful situation, really. And no matter what I did, no matter how much therapy I got, no matter how much coaching I got, um, no matter what I tried to do to make it healthy again, I just couldn't make it work. And it was heartbreaking, absolutely heartbreaking. And in the midst of all of this fire, I contracted long swine flu. I was an early adopter of coronaviruses, but it was the swine flu. I got the piggy flu. So I had fevers for 6 months and was really, really unwell. And it was just one of those enormous initiations. And I remember one day, I was being so sick and I was so heartbroken and I was so stressed. And I looked at my youngest daughter and I thought, it's not the childhood that I want for her, and this is not the business that I want. I want to run away from the very dream business that I'd created. It's been my dream all along, and suddenly it's a nightmare that I want to close down. And I thought, I'm going to choose her. I'm going to choose her. I'm going to choose her big sister. I'm going to choose my husband. I'm going to choose my sanity. I'm going to choose my creativity. I'm going to choose my dream. And I decided to right size my business back to the point where it felt good for me to run it again.
Yeah.
And so what that meant was I stopped printing the books in China, and I went back to print on demand. And at a certain point, I also got a publishing deal for a couple of years to publish the workbooks and just streamlined the business back to where it was something that I could run with really minimal staff. And that I could spend the majority of my time in creativity and in the things that I really felt like I was here on earth to do. I wasn't born to manage staff and logistics.
I hear you.
That's not, yeah,
I hear you.
it's
I
not for
actually closed my business for similar reasons 20 years ago.
really.
I had a bookshop, and when we started growing up and having too much stuff, I didn't have any more time to read. It was like, okay, nope, this is not what I'm doing. And I had a 1-year-old, and it was like, no, I don't see this baby. I did not make this baby for him to be with a nanny 24 hours a day because I need to work. And it was like, okay, no. So my husband and myself, we sold the business and it becomes something completely different. So
Wow.
I hear you really very much.
Congratulations.
So we have another few minutes, and I don't want to evade the possibility of you talking about how you help women in the world, or maybe even men, I don't know, for that sake, or whoever, with your incredible academy. Can you please let us know how we can join? Well, not me, because I'm in there, of course. But so
You know,
I'm going to go and remind the beginning of it. It's an academy. That means there are literally hundreds of courses in there. It's one sweet, crazy price. And there are courses on about anything, from courses that are for business people, but also, and I really love that, courses that are for people. And for me, the one of the last ones, which I did recently again, is how to write your book in 40 days. And that's my third book now. So I'm really excited. And it's, when I read the title, it was like, no, she couldn't. She must be joking. I can't do that in 40 days. And that's part of the magic that you create in the world, that things that seem unbelievable seem to happen. So thank you again. And yeah, of course, to whoever's listening, you will find all the links to Leonie, to her website, to her courses, her academy, free stuff, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, YouTube, wherever, under the podcast or the video, wherever you're watching or listening to this. And yes, they are affiliate links because, hey, I'm a proud affiliate. But yeah, do you want to add something about the academy? Or
yeah.
about
I
anything
really
else, by the way?
I just wanted to create a space for people to be able to access, you know, this vast library of my work because I'm a creative. I'm not somebody who's just going to create one course and be like, well, that's the thing I'm going to sell for the next 20 years. It's like I would rather
I
stab
hear
myself
you.
in the face with a cucumber to just create one thing. So the academy um, it has over 100 programs in there now, and we're adding to it all the time. I've got a brand new program just about to be released, and you can buy it separately, or you can get it in the academy. And it's the Creative Goddess program. Creative Goddess is the very first course I released back in
I remember.
2008, and when I was asking my angels, okay, what do you want me to create next? They were like, you are going to create the next version of the Creative Goddess. And it's called the Creative Goddess Embodied. It's how I've continued to create prolifically after 20 years having this as my creative career. And I think it's going to be a really divine and powerful experience about how to get over your creative blocks and out of your head and into creating and enjoying the absolute bejesus out of creating instead of being stuck in that paralysis of like, is it good enough? And I don't like it. And it's like, am I worthy? And all of that horse shit that can go through our minds.
Am I an
So
imposter? Am I an artist? Am I not an artist? Oh, I hear you.
exactly. You can just let all that go. Can let all that go. So it's going to be a really
This is really
delicious.
exciting for me. I did the Creative Goddess program, the original one, several times. The first time I did it, it was a shock. If I remember correctly, there was a lesson at one point that I'm not going to spoil anything, just in case.
Oh, you can because it's a completely different program. So
Okay,
spoiler.
so
I
at
love
one
it.
point there was an exercise where you asked us to create something and then destroy it, and I was outraged. I was like, no, there's no way. Why? What? This beautiful thing that I have created, now she wants me to destroy it. And it was like, really it took all of me to quiet down this annoyed child that, I want my baby, and I want my toy. I don't want my toy to be destroyed. Um, and I remember doing it. It was one of the first times. I've been doing it a lot ever since, but it was one of the first times. And I live in the middle of nowhere in France, and we have a chimney. We don't have a central heating device, so we only have a fire thing. Um, and so I was standing there in front of the fire thing with my object, and I was like, I need to put it in the fire. And it took me a good half an hour to just let it go. And it was so freaking powerful. So freaking powerful. So, yeah. Again, thank you. It seems I've been saying thank you a lot during this episode, but I'm so happy I get to do that with you face to face and say thank you.
Oh my gosh, I'm really grateful. That just fills my heart. And also because, when you create and you're just in your own little office, my little hidey hole, I'm such a hermit. Like, I forget that my work goes out into the world. I forget that it
Yeah,
has impact.
we
And
do
to get
that.
that reminder is really heartwarming. And I'm very grateful for that.
Okay, so absolute last question, if you have 30 seconds.
Yes.
While you
Let's
were
go.
talking earlier on, you were holding something in your hand. Since I've been holding something in my hand as well, maybe we can discuss crystals before we
Oh
get
my
away. So
God.
mine is a labradorite, which I usually hold when I'm talking on the internet because there's so many, how do you say that, waves and, energy, which is not always clean. Let's put it this way. So
Mm.
what is yours?
Mm. Oh, mine is just a smoky quartz. I
Beautiful.
shouldn't say just a smoky quartz. Um, and I just I found it in a shop a few months ago, and I thought, "Oh, it's mine. It's
Mm.
mine." And it just feels very incredibly grounding. And it was laying next to my bed last night, and then when I jumped on this call, I thought, "Oh, take that with me." So sometimes it's with me, sometimes it's not, but obviously it wants to be with its little crystal friend today. So I'm very
Yes.
grateful.
Voila. I am so, so happy to have met you. I am so, so grateful for you talking to me and to my growing audience. Let's put it this way. And yeah, if you have anything else that you want to add, please be my guest. Otherwise, I'll just
Oh,
remind everyone that all of your information and all your links will be shared below or above or wherever around this video or this audio, and that you're an incredible person that adds to the world. So thank you so much.
oh my goodness, bless you. You have really filled my cup this morning, Isaiah. I thank you so much.
Bye for now.